Greetings, Hotep Fakwaba. Bless up. This is me in the recovery room of Racism Non-Anonymous. I am Sis Abena, and I am the recovering African enslaved in America. And I am a representative from the Voices and the Margins. I'm also true to the cause of African liberation via unification and utilizing the tool of healthy and effective communication. I live in the moment. I live moment by moment. And so what happened in the moment, as I kind of said those words, I became very much aware of the music in the background. And, you know, that triggered thoughts at a particular moment in time. And the music feeds my spirit and feeds my energy and you know, kind of keeps me stimulated, if you will. Without it, there are times when my spirit can become weighted down in the system, in the shit of this system. I say that because, you know, just sort of recognizing and being aware, being conscious of all the shit that is going on in America right now, and especially and in particular for African descendants, it's a heavy load. It's a very heavy load. I've been listening to people for a very long time. In fact, all of my life. As have, I trust, that every single living soul who are listening to me right now can stake claim to that very same reality. Since we came out of our mama's womb, we have been hearing, at least, I guess at a minimum, people hear people. Now how much we are listening, I suppose, could be considered different. So I will retract and reframe that communication and simply suggest to you, I certainly have been listening to people for a very long time. Not all of my life. I have heard people, but I'm not always listening to people, even when I hear them talk. There are times when I'm just hearing and not actively listening. And there is a difference for me between really listening to what somebody is saying versus simply hearing the words that they are saying. So, again, I'm about healthy and effective communication. That's my shtick, that's my spiel, that's the horse I'm riding around on, if you will. And as such, at any rate, the things that I have been learning as I have been listening to people, I would say at least in the past 2 years, here on YouTube and on Blog Talk Radio and in forums. And the dominant forum that I have been listening to people in of late, or at least in the past 2 years, has been Destiny.com. Where am I going with all of this? Many people that I hear and that I listen to these days really are sort of focused on the spiritual realm and spiritual realities and seeking, in large part, spiritual resolutions or spiritual solutions to the shit that we are in here in America. So to support them with not becoming bogged down in the system, they have been going to the spirit and spiritual realms and spiritual realities and spirituality and spiritual teachings. And I trust that's useful, for me, music is one of the things that stirs and stimulates my spirit and spiritual energy and pulls me up out of the system. And so that's why I'm always having it playing, and when I do videos, the music is playing because it gives me energy. And it stimulates me, and the messages are so powerful, in especially the reggae music for me. That's what does it right now for me. That is not to say that other music, R&B, what are some of the other genres, jazz, African music, the drums. This is not to say that those genres do not stimulate my spirit. They do, just in a very different way. Right now, it's the reggae vibe that I'm riding on and that I'm on. And so again, that's why the music is always playing. Speaking of spirituality and spiritualness, there, in my paradigm of lived experiences, what I've talked about is the unique and direct connection between the individual self and the spirit realm. So ways that I hear people working on or working with their individual self is from a spiritual connection. Going within self, getting to know self, I have found for me, and I hear many others finding the same thing, is a very spiritual, if you will, process. It is accessing the spirit within when we focus on and look at self. It is a very spiritual, process. I talk about, and I have talked about and teach, if you will, the need and the necessity for people to do more of that, to focus on yourself, first and foremost. Close these eyes, these two eyes which look out at the world, and when I close those eyes, that third eye, when I meditate and allow it to, opens up, and it looks within. You cannot see it, and you cannot really see me. You cannot really see within my soul, my spirit, because the third eye is the only eye that looks in. When you look at me with your two eyes, you are looking at just the surface. You cannot see within. We are able to sort of get a glimpse of what is going on inside a person only when they open up their mouths and speak. And even then, we are only getting just a tidbit, just the surface of what is within a person based on what they say. The other challenge that is presented is that when a person speaks a thing, what you hear, how you interpret what you hear is going to be based on your own internal knowing or knowledge of those words. And what you know about what the meaning of the words are that a person speaks from themselves could be very different. Now, I was like, okay, example. This would be a good time to give you an example of what I mean. And one is not readily coming to me. I think about the tomato. That was the first thing that comes to my mind. You say tomato, I say tomato. Now, when I say tomato, I am envisioning and sort of thinking, and it has a particular meaning for me. that may or may not be the same as when you say tomato. So that, if that's a useful example, I don't have a sense that that is the most effective example that I could use. Well, I can use the N-word because that's another word that's sort of coming to my mind. Excuse me, but my eye is itching. That's another word, nigger. Nigger. There are many people who, I imagine, consider themselves of the conscious community of African descendants. And when they hear the word nigger, so for example, somebody who is 75 years of age, when they hear the word nigger, it has a particular connotation and it triggers specific sets of memories that a 20-year-old, when they say nigga, that's my nigga, it means something totally different. The 75-year-old may hear the 20-year-old refer to themselves and or their peers as nigga and walk away with a belief or a sense that they are calling themselves something that is akin and consistent with meaning that they are a slave, that they are ignorant, that they are they consider themselves to be these things, and that this is what they are owning as a persona. They are owning that they are ignorant. They are owning that they are less than white people. However, if they walk away with that assumption, because that's what it becomes, an assumption, without asking the 20-year-old, when you say nigga, what does it mean to you? How does, what behaviors does that support you with engaging in with other of your niggas? How do you deal with them? Other questions they could ask could be, where did you learn that? Where did you learn that term? How did you come to refer to yourself in that way? And in so doing, asking those questions, they gain additional information. However, they could choose to stop at the surface and say, that person called themselves a nigger, that means X, Y, and Z about them, and therefore this is how I'm going to behave in relationship to them. And again, that is just the surface. So a person, cannot ever really truly know another person based on what they hear without having, without asking more questions to get to know more about the person as they define themselves and as they view themselves in the meaning that they make out of particular terms, words, and things.